Hi everybody, this is your narrator Ali, and I hope you are ready to relax into our story today. Settle back, close your eyes if you wish, and let us journey together across ancient seas to an island said to lie east of the east, where time forgets its duty and youth never fades. Chapter 1. The Word in a Wise Man's Heart. In the old days, when dragons were still remembered and the gods were nearer to the world of men, there lived in China a wise man, whose name was Jofuku. Many books he read, from bamboo strips stained with age to fresh scrolls bright with ink, and he never forgot what was written there. Every character was to him as familiar as the lines in the palm of his hand, and every saying of sages and poets shone clear in his memory like stars in a winter sky. Yet his wisdom did not grow from books alone. He listened to the secret talk of birds at dawn and to the low, patient speech of beasts by night. He studied herbs and flowers and trees, the slow strength of rocks and the hidden veins of metals, until he could read the earth as easily as a scholar reads a page. He knew magic and poetry and philosophy. He was rich in years and richer still in knowledge. All the people honored him, and in the markets and courts of the land, his name was spoken with respect. But Jofuku's heart was not at peace, for there, as though carved upon a stone tablet that could never be broken, a single word was written. That word was mutability, the change that steals color from flowers, strength from warriors, and breath from the lips of kings. By day the word hung before his waking eyes. By night it shone upon the darkness within like a pale and restless moon. Because of this word, Jofuku's wisdom tasted of ashes, and the sweetness of life felt thin upon his tongue. In those days, a harsh and fearful emperor ruled over China, a man whose suspicion was long and whose mercy was short. He kept the land beneath his iron gaze and trusted neither soldier nor sage. Even Jofuku, whom all men revered, was not spared the burden of this ruler's mood. At a whim, the emperor would summon him to court, demanding wonders as a child demands toys, for power is never content with ordinary pleasures. So it came to pass that the wise man's days grew heavy, not only with the word upon his heart, but with the caprice of a tyrant. Chapter 2. Impossible Commands. One hot afternoon, when a palace garden shimmered like a mirage, the emperor called Jofuku to stand before his dragon-carved throne. Perfumed breezes shook the leaves of the royal grove, and the soft notes of hidden birds drifted among the pillars. The emperor, leaning upon silken cushions, looked down with a half-smile that held no kindness. "Jofuku," he said, "you are praised as the wisest of men. Then teach the nightingales of my wood to sing me the songs of the Chinese poets." Jofuku bowed low, but his wise face was troubled. He had learned many things in his long life, but the hearts of birds are free, and their songs belong to no master. He knew that to force such music is to break its spirit, as one breaks a delicate cup in too strong a hand. At last he answered, "Liege, I cannot." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "In all your wisdom, you cannot guide a few small birds?" The courtiers drew sharp breaths, for the shadow of the emperor's anger was cold. Jofuku felt the weight of many watching eyes, and yet he would not call falsehood wisdom. "Alas, liege," he said softly, "ask me another thing, and I will give it you, though it cost me the blood of my heart." But the tyrant was not soothed. He toyed with the ring upon his finger and pondered another command, one no human wisdom might fulfill. "Very well," he said at last. "If you cannot rule the throats of birds, then scent the peony with the scent of the jessamine. The peony is brilliant and imperial, the jessamine small and pale. Yet the lowliest blossom possesses the sweetest perfume. I desire the splendor of the peony with the fragrance of the jessamine. Give me that, wise man." Jofuku stood in silence. He loved flowers and understood their nature, the quiet pride of each within its own design. To take the scent of one and force it upon another seemed as cruel as carving a mountain to resemble a man's face. His silence lengthened, his shoulders drooped, the emperor's patience snapped like a bowstring. "By the gods," he cried, "this wise man is a fool. If he cannot grant his emperor so small a wish, of what use is his wisdom? Some of you, off with his head." At these terrible words, the courtiers fell back. Jofuku, pale but steadfast, lifted his eyes to the throne. "Liege," he said, "spare me my life, and I will set sail for Horaizan, where grows the herb of immortality. I will pluck this herb and bring it back, that you may live and reign forever." The hall grew still. Even the incense seemed to hold its breath. Immortality! What king has heard that word and not felt his heart burn? The emperor sat very quiet, imagining endless years to command armies, gather tribute, and bend the world to his will. At last he said, "Go then, Jofuku, and linger not, or it will be the worse for you if you return empty-handed." Chapter 3. Setting Sail for the East. Jofuku left the palace, his fate balanced upon the thin bridge between the emperor's desire and his own troubled heart. He went to the harbors of China, where the masts of ships stood thick as reeds in a marsh, and where the smell of tar and salt mingled with the cries of gulls. There he gathered brave companions, men who laughed at storms and trusted the stars, and he hired the most famous mariners of the land. Together they manned a mighty junk, its hull strong, its sails broad and new. They loaded it with jars of clear water and sacks of grain, with dried meats and fragrant teas, with bolts of silk and chests of gold, that they might bargain in strange ports if need arose. When all was ready, Jofuku stood upon the deck beneath the rising moon of the 7th month, and a sudden stillness fell upon him. He thought of the word upon his heart, and wondered if even the herb of immortality could erase it. The emperor himself came down to the seashore, borne in a curtained litter, and surrounded by guards with spears that gleamed under the moonlight. The people crowded behind them, whispering as they watched the wise man's departure. "Speed, wise man," called the emperor from the shore. "Fetch me the herb immortality, and see that you do it quickly. If you return without it, you and all your companions shall die the death." "Farewell, liege," Jofuku answered, his voice carried back over the darkening water. The anchors were raised, the great sails unfurled like white wings, and the junk glided from the harbor. The boards creaked and the ropes quivered. Water splashed against her sides as she took the sea. The sailors sang deep-voiced songs to steady their hearts, and the brave companions were merry, for they loved adventure more than safety. But Jofuku stood apart at the stern, looking forward and looking back, sad, because of the word mutability that burned unseen upon his heart. Chapter 4. Trials on the Wide Sea. For many days and nights the junk of Jofuku was upon the wild sea, steering always towards the far east, where the sun rose from the waves like a molten sword. Sometimes the water lay calm as polished jade, and the ship slipped over it as lightly as a leaf. Sometimes waves rose like hills, green and roaring, and the junk climbed their sides with groans of effort. The men endured much, for the sea is a stern teacher. They knew burning days when the sun struck them like a hammer, till their skin smarted and their tongues grew thick with thirst. They knew nights of cruel cold, when the sky was hard with stars, and the wind cut through their garments, as through paper, freezing fingers upon ropes and oars. Hunger gnawed at them when supplies ran thin. Sickness crept among them, hollowing cheeks and dimming eyes. Some of the brave companions fell sick and died, wrapped in their own cloaks and slid with a whispered prayer into the deep which closes over all grief. One dreadful dawn, dark sails rose on the horizon, the sails of pirates, whose hearts were harder than the iron of their blades. They swept upon Jofuku's junk with shouting and the clash of arms. The sea ran red. Many of Jofuku's men were slain, and more were flung struggling into the water. After fierce struggle, the junk broke free, but at terrible cost. Then came the typhoon, a storm born of the meeting of sky and sea in fury. Winds howled like demons, and waves rose, mountains of water crowned with foam. They crashed upon the junk, tearing away the masts as though they were stalks of bamboo, shredding the beautiful white sails and sweeping the rich stores and even the emperor's gold down into the sea's hungry mouth. One by one, the famous mariners and the brave companions disappeared, swallowed by the black water and the roaring night. At last, when the storm was spent and the morning came faint and colorless, Jofuku found himself alone upon the broken deck. No voice answered his call. Splintered beams and tattered ropes lay about him. The junk floated half-ruined upon a sullen sea. He himself lay weak and weary, scarcely able to lift a hand. Yet his heart still beat, and in its beat there echoed that quiet, implacable word: Mutability. Chapter 5. Horaizan the Blessed. In the gray light of dawn, Jofuku raised his eyes, and far to the east he saw a mountain rising from the sea. It was very faint and seemed made of pearl, its sides soft with mist, and its summit lost in a delicate haze. Upon its highest peak there grew a single tree, tall and spreading, as if it held the sky upon its branches. A murmur escaped Jofuku's lips. "The island of Horaizan lies east of the east," he whispered, recalling the old tales. "And there stands Fusan, the Wonder Mountain. Upon the heights of Fusan grows a tree whose branches hide the mysteries of life." Too weak to steer or even grasp an oar, he could only watch as the crippled junk drifted nearer. Yet some gentle current took pity on him and bore the vessel swiftly on. The waters grew still and deep blue, like the calm gaze of a kindly spirit. Soon he could see the bright green of the island's grass and the multitude of flowers, more than he had seen even in the emperor's gardens. From the shore came troops of young men and maidens. They moved lightly, like reeds swayed by a playful wind, and their garments shone with colors as soft as the inner side of shells. They waded into the shallow water with laughter and singing, laid hands upon the sides of the junk, and drew it gently up onto the sand. As they leaned near, Jofuku was aware of sweet and spicy odors that clung to their hair and sleeves, scents of unknown blossoms, warm and rich and strangely comforting. At their invitation, he stepped from the wrecked junk onto the shore of Horaizan. No sooner did his feet touch that soil than the ship, his last tie to the world he had known, drifted slowly away, turning without a sound and melting into the mist until it was wholly gone. Jofuku watched it vanish with a slight pang, as one watches a page of life turned and closed. Then he lifted his gaze to the island itself, and his breath caught. The trees were filled with birds, whose plumage shone blue and gold like little fragments of sky and sunlight. Their songs mingled in endless, delightful music, yet never clashed, each voice weaving through the others as threads through a silken tapestry. On all sides hung fruits in marvelous plenty, the orange and the citron, the pomegranate's crimson lanterns, the persimmon and the peach, the plum and the loquat, heavy and ripe, their skins glowing. The ground beneath his feet was like a rich brocade embroidered with every flower that blooms in any season. The dwellers of Horaizan took him by the hands and greeted him tenderly, as though welcoming home a long-lost brother. Their faces were smooth, their eyes bright. No shadow of care or haste lay upon them. "Strange," said Jofuku, feeling his own limbs. "I do not feel my old age any more." They looked at him with gentle wonder. "What is old age?" they asked, as if he had spoken of some forgotten tool. He stretched himself and found no ache in joint or bone. "No pain," he murmured. "I no longer feel any pain." Again they looked puzzled. "What is pain?" they said, as though the word held no meaning. Jofuku pressed his hand to his chest. "The word is no longer written on my heart," he whispered. "What word do you speak of, beloved stranger?" they asked. "Mutability," said the wise man. They shook their heads gently. "We do not know that word, nor can we guess its meaning." Then Jofuku, trembling, asked, "Tell me, is this death?" "We have never heard of death," answered the inhabitants of Horaizan, and their calm voices held neither fear nor pride, only simple truth. So Jofuku understood that he had come indeed to the island of eternal youth, where neither age nor sickness nor death is known, and where the word mutability has never been spoken. Chapter 6. The Second Wise Man. Now in Japan at that same time there lived another wise man, Wasobiobe by name, who was in wisdom no less than Jofuku. Unlike the old sage of China, however, he was young and in the full strength of his years. The people honored and loved him, for his counsel was kindly as well as keen, and he did not hoard knowledge, but shared it freely. His days were often happy, yet in the depths of his spirit there stirred a restlessness he could not quite name. Wasobiobe found peace in venturing alone upon the sea. He owned a small, frail boat that rocked lightly upon the waves like a cradle, and it was his pleasure to push out from the coast and drift, listening to the whisper of waters and the far cries of seabirds. There he would meditate, letting the vastness of the ocean loosen the knots of thought and worry. One such evening, when the sky burned gold and crimson, and the sea mirrored all that glory, Wasobiobe rowed out farther than usual. The water was very gentle. The oars dipped with a soft rhythm that lulled his senses. He lay back in the boat, watching the first stars appear, and little by little, rocked by the breathing of the sea, he fell asleep. All night long he slept, while his boat drifted eastward, drawn by currents known only to the deep. The moon climbed and sank. The constellations wheeled overhead. Still the wise man slumbered, folded in the soft cloak of dreams. At last, in the bright light of morning, a shaft of sun touched his face, and he woke. He sat up and gazed about him in wonder. Above him rose the shadow of a great mountain, its slopes clothed in forests that seemed to glow with their own light. His little boat floated not upon the open sea, but upon the quiet waters of a broad river whose banks were lined with iris and lotus, their blossoms bending to admire themselves in the clear depths. "The sweetest spot in all the world," murmured Wasobiobe. "I think I have come to Horaizan the blessed." His heart quickened, for he knew the old tales of an island where youth never fades and joy knows no end. Taking up his oar, he steered the boat towards the shore and sprang lightly onto the flowered bank. Chapter 7. The island of eternal youth scarcely had Wasobiobe set foot upon the land when groups of radiant youths and maidens came hurrying to meet him. Their eyes shone with gladness and curiosity, and their laughter rang like silver bells. Among them, he saw one whose face was both new and strangely familiar, the wise man of China, Jofuku, yet no longer bent with age. His hair was dark, his step quick, his gaze as bright as the morning star. "Welcome, welcome, dear brother," they cried together. "Welcome to Horaizan, the island of eternal youth." Their voices wrapped around Wasobiobe like warm silk. They led him beneath trees heavy with fruit, where the air was sweet with mingled scents. There they offered him peaches so tender that the juice ran down his fingers, and pomegranates whose seeds burst like rubies upon his tongue. When he had eaten and drunk, they spread soft cloaks upon a bank of flowers and invited him to rest there and listen. Musicians came, their instruments shining with mother-of-pearl and gold. Gentle hands drew forth melodies that seemed woven of sunlight and breeze. The music told of spring mornings and autumn moons, of hidden springs in high mountains, of the quiet love between friends who need no words. Wasobiobe felt peace settle upon him like a blessing. Afterwards they wandered together through the woods and groves. They rode swift horses over emerald meadows, hunted not to kill, but for the joy of the chase, and bathed in warm, clear seawater that caressed the skin like silk. Wherever they went, flowers bloomed under their feet. Wherever they rested, the air grew luminous. They feasted in halls open to the sky and rejoiced in every delightful pleasure. On Horaizan, the long day lingered, stretching like golden honey, yet no evening chill followed, and there was no night. There was no need of sleep, for there was no weariness, there was no pain, and therefore no cry for rest. Time itself seemed to hesitate upon the threshold, unwilling to enter such a place. Wasobiobe smiled and joined in the songs of the island. Yet deep within, another song answered the distant, persistent call of home. Chapter 8. The Word Called Humanity. After the passing of many bright hours that might have been days or years, for who can count the moments on Horaizan, Wasobiobe came quietly to Jofuku. They stood together beneath the vast tree of Fusan, whose branches veiled the upper sky and whose leaves seemed to whisper secrets of life to those who listened. A soft wind moved their hair. The sea murmured far below. "Brother," said Wasobiobe, "I cannot find my boat." Jofuku smiled gently. "What matter, brother? You need no boat here. All that heart's desire is upon this island." But Wasobiobe shook his head. "Indeed, I do need it. My boat must carry me home. I am sick for home. That is the truth I cannot hide." Jofuku's smile faded, and he regarded the younger man with a searching gaze. "Are you not happy in Horaizan?" he asked. "Happy? Yes, in moments," said Wasobiobe, "for beauty is everywhere, and sorrow seems banished. Yet even amid this joy, a word presses upon my heart, heavy as a stone. Because of that word, I have no peace." "What word is written there?" Jofuku asked softly. "The word is humanity," Wasobiobe answered. "At first it was a faint mark, but with every pleasure I tasted here, it grew sharper and more clear. I think of my people, of the old and the weary, of children yet unborn, of friends who still watch for my return. Their laughter and their tears, their striving and their failures, all these call to me. I cannot forget them and live forever in this place." Jofuku listened, and something long forgotten stirred like a shadow beneath water. "Strange," he murmured. "Once I too had a word written on my heart. The word was Mutability, and it troubled me greatly. But here on Horaizan, I have forgotten what it means, and the forgetting has brought me peace. Do you not wish to forget as I have done?" Wasobiobe looked on his brother with pity. "Nay," he said, "I cannot forget. To be human is to change, to age, to suffer, and at last to die. Yet it is also to love, to remember, and to keep faith. If I cast aside this word, I fear I shall cease to be myself. Eternal youth without humanity would be an empty song." Chapter 9. The Flight of the Crane. When he had spoken thus, Wasobiobe left Jofuku and sought the highest parts of the island, where the clouds brushed the shoulders of Fusan. There, on a lonely ledge of rock, there lived the crane, ancient and wise, whose wings had measured both the breadth of seas and the heights of heaven. Her feathers were white as new-fallen snow, her long beak like polished ivory, and her eye clear as a cold star. Wasobiobe bowed low before her. "Great crane," he said, "you are a traveler who knows all the roads of the sky. Take me home to my own land." The crane regarded him gravely. "Alas," she replied, "if I do this, you will die. This island is the home of eternal youth. Do you know that you have walked here for 100 years? Wasobiobe started. He looked at his hands, smooth, unwrinkled. He felt his limbs, strong, tireless. 100 years, and yet his body was unchanged. "If you leave Horaizan," continued the crane, "time will fall upon you as suddenly as a great wave. You will feel old age and weariness and pain all the years at once, and then you will die." Her voice was neither cruel nor tender. She spoke only truth. "No matter," said Wasobiobe quietly. "Take me home. Better to walk a little way in honesty than to wander forever in forgetfulness. My heart belongs among my own people. My word is humanity, and I will not betray it." The crane bent her long neck in a gesture of respect, for she recognized courage when she saw it. "Very well," she said, "climb upon my back and hold to my feathers. I will bear you where you wish." Wasobiobe mounted, and with a mighty beat of her wings, the crane rose from the cliffs of Horaizan. Day and night she flew, her shadow passing over sleeping seas and waking lands. She did not tire, for she was made for journeys. Wasobiobe clung to her, watching as the island of eternal youth grew small and misty behind them, until at last it vanished like a dream at dawn. Ahead, the familiar outline of his homeland slowly took shape out of the haze. At length the crane said, "Do you see the shore?" He shaded his eyes and saw the beloved coast of Japan, the mountains he had known, the curve of the bays, the dark line of pines along the sands. "I see it," he answered. "Praise be to the gods." "Where shall I carry you?" asked the crane. "Remember, you have but a little time to live." Wasobiobe considered, and in his mind rose the image of a simple scene. "Good crane," he said, "upon the dear sand of my country, beneath a spreading pine, there sits a poor fisherman mending his net. Carry me to him, that I may die in his arms." The crane descended in sweeping circles, the wind singing around him. She alighted gently upon the shore, where indeed sat a poor fisherman beneath a pine, his hands busy with worn ropes and knots. The waves rolled in and out at his feet with their ancient rhythm, untroubled by the secrets of immortality. The crane laid Wasobiobe upon the sand beside the fisherman and folded her wings. Her task was done. Chapter 10. The Way of All Flesh. The fisherman, startled, dropped his net and bent over the stranger. To his eyes, Wasobiobe appeared suddenly as a very old man, his hair white as sea foam, his face lined by the invisible years that had waited outside Horaizan. Yet in that aged face shone a gentle light, as of someone who has looked upon a great mystery and chosen his path. The fisherman lifted him with rough but kindly hands and held him against his humble breast. Wasobiobe sighed with relief, as though at last he had reached a safe harbor after a perilous voyage. "I might have lived forever," he whispered, "but for the word that is written on my heart." "What word is that, honored sir?" asked the fisherman. "Humanity," murmured the wise man. "For the sake of that word I came home. Now, suddenly I am old. Hold me closer, friend. Ah, the pain." A great cry broke from him, for all the suffering of lost years rushed upon his flesh in a single moment. Weariness of long labor, sorrow of parting, the ache of every heart that ever loved and lost. Yet even as the cry faded, his features softened. Afterwards he smiled, a small, peaceful smile, as if he saw before him something long desired. His breath left him with a gentle sigh, and Wasobiobe, the wise man of Japan, was dead. The fisherman looked down at the still face in his arms. He did not know of Horaizan, or of the great crane, or of the long flight between worlds. But he had seen birth and death before. He had watched waves rise and fall, seasons turn and return. So he only said with quiet acceptance, "It is the way of all flesh." Then he laid the body reverently upon the sand and bowed his head, while the sea continued its endless song beside them. Closing reflection of change, of love, and of life. So ends the tale of the two wise men, Jofuku of China and Wasobiobe of Japan, and of Horaizan, the island where youth is eternal and death unknown. Jofuku, troubled by mutability, found rest in forgetting, surrendering himself to unchanging joy. Wasobiobe, compelled by humanity, chose to remember, and in remembering accepted age, pain, and death for the sake of love. Between them stretches the path we all must walk, for every heart bears some secret word, written there by its deepest longing. Some dream of escape from time's touch. Others, like Wasobiobe, find that the very passing of days gives meaning to their journey. For what is love, if not the courage to care for what will someday pass away? And what is mortality, if not the gentle summons that bids us cherish each fleeting moment as a gift? As you return from this story to your own life, may you listen quietly for the word written upon your heart. Whether it speaks of change or of compassion, of memory or of hope, may it guide you wisely through the seas of time. And if, in some still hour, you hear the faint music of far-off birds or feel the brush of a crane's shadow across your thoughts, remember Horaizan, not only as an island beyond the east, but as a question within the soul. Is it better to live forever and forget, or to live a little while and love? Thank you for sharing this journey with me. Until our next tale together, may your days be gentle, your heart steadfast, and your path lit by the quiet wisdom of your own humanity. For more stories that can help you relax, don't forget to like and subscribe.